when I finally got more information, it didn't clarify things. It made them worse because what should have been guiding her care wasn't. I'm Margaret. I work with horses from a bodywork and osteopathic lens. And in this series, What's Actually Wrong with This Horse, I break down real cases so you can see the problems that actually develop and why they get missed. In the last episode, we talked about this particular horse's feet and the kind of how they were getting overlooked and what I noticed right away that just everybody else was missing. So let's dive in to getting into that pattern. So we talked about how she had x-rays that were taken 4 years prior, and because she hadn't had new x-rays, nobody was trimming her feet in accordance to those x-rays. What I noticed that also concerned me in this whole process was, one, that we were making decisions about how we were treating her feet without any current information, and that means that we were using assumptions instead of data. And that's not really cool. That's not my jam. I would prefer to work off of data. It's a lot more accurate, right? So everything on the surface really looked okay, but it wasn't. There was no real direction to where they were going with her feet. They were just maintaining, and the maintaining wasn't working for the rest of her body. So with her feet in particular, I noticed that there was a wedge pad on her clubfoot side, but not on the lower heel, which was kind of a red flag to me. Like, why are we lifting the foot that's already higher even higher? And the answer to that I got was that, and they had to reach out to their farrier and ask the question. And he was like, well, if we don't put the pad on there, then there's too much concussion and she gets sore. I got lots of problems with this because, okay, maybe we shouldn't use metal shoes. We should use composite instead then, right? Like, there's just so many things because the metal shoes actually create more concussion than relieve it. Barefoot is an even better option to reduce concussion, which I know not a lot of people understand that, but that's the truth. It's scientifically backed, that the barefoot horse actually absorbs or sends less concussion up their leg with every step than a shod horse. So, for me, I knew those things didn't make sense. If concussion was the concern, we were probably using the wrong approach, and the logic just wasn't there for me. So, because those pieces alone, with just this one part of her situation wasn't making sense, I knew that each of the other issues that I was looking at was going to be compounded, because they were operating as if these problems were all made in isolation, when that's not the case. This is a whole picture problem. So, at this point, I wasn't just questioning her feet. I was questioning everything that's going on with this horse, which is fair. This is how I approach every horse, because in most cases, horses are being approached in isolated symptom solving mode instead of whole horse approach mode. So one of the things about her feet in particular that really just kind of got to me was that the feet themselves were probably, yes, impacting her body now, but how did we get here? She had these injuries as a foal that weren't treated, and that nobody was really trying to help her work through. Now, I say not treated, but I don't mean like they just let her wounds fester. I don't know that, I wasn't there, but like there wasn't anything that they could do about having crushed withers, and there was a limited amount that they could do about such a gaping wound on a young horse, aside from bandaging it up really good and putting her on stall rest, which does not appear to be what they've done. And even if they did, I think with the rest of what was going on in her body, it wouldn't have served her anyways. So here's my thought process on the feet. Because she had that injury to her right hind, because she had her withers crushed, I believe that she grew in a compensation pattern, which is totally typical, but she grew in a compensation pattern that actually directly impacted the way that her feet grew. So this changed from the time she was young to her adulthood, how that left foot grew, because there's, the injury on the right hind is going to create compensation in the left front, and that's going to change her weight distribution. Okay. Adding into that she had crushed withers, that is absolutely going to impact her ability to use her front end. So through her youth, from the time she was a foal until, she actually started fusing bones at the age of 5 and 6, her whole body is compensating, which absolutely changed how her feet structurally developed in the front, and also over time, how she moved throughout her entire body. So one of the other things that we discovered in getting x-rays was that she also had negative palmar plantar angles, NPA, in 3 out of 4 of her feet. This is why we have to x-ray all 4 feet. So obviously, the x-rays really helped everything click into place, right? You know, when we get to that, and that's just in the feet, right? Like we haven't even talked about the rest of our body. When we get to that point, we knew that we were going to have to do a lot of corrective shoeing. So we got a specialist in for that. He was fantastic. And we made the choice. We had to sit down and have the conversation of, are we going to do this a slow way and let her continue to suffer the way she has been? She was in a lot more pain than they perceived, which, you know, was pretty easy for me to identify with between chiropractic notes, the things that the veterinarian was seeing, and then also with my hands-on evaluations and her movement assessments and seeing how her movement changed over time. She was in significant pain, so we had to make that decision. Do we do this in small chunks and every shoeing cycle we just change this a little bit, or are we going to make a drastic change that is probably going to make her sore? And so next episode we will dig into that decision, the process that we took to make it, and then the other problems that were contributing to her whole issues, all of her issues overall. So until then, get out there and do some fun pony shit, and I will chat with you next time.